hora límite. Okay.
Good evening. We are interviewing Mr. Gilberto Lozano, Mexican activist that represent the most powerful organization, non-profit organization in Mexico that is following the democracy, the real democracy in Mexico, and is asking the demission of the current Mexican president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. To all that people who is screening this video, let me explain in advance the efforts of Mr. Lozano and his organization. If we don't stop right now the Mexican government of the current mistakes they are doing every day, back to back, in certain ways, USA, the United States of America, is going to be very affected. Remember, Mexico and US share the largest country, or one of the largest countries' borders in the world. The most crossed border by documented and undocumented people, and Mexico is the best commercial partner for USA. So the opinions of Mr. Gilberto Lozano are very influential, and tonight this video is going to be distributed between the headquarters of Fox News, CNN International, CBS News, ABC News, the Department of State, and the Center of Studies Carter, and the Center of Latin American Studies of several universities in the USA. Good evening, Mr. Lozano. How are you doing tonight?
Very well. Hi, Frank. Also, all audience. Effectively, Mexico now is in the between the worst countries facing the pandemic. But many of the results that we are expecting of this government are completely in a worse scenario. In the case of the pandemic, Frank, I believe it's important the audience knows that we are in a really big problem. For example, the rate of vaccination now is 12,700 vaccines per day. This means we finish in 2048 year 2048 first doses, and this the kind of a rate, Frank, is really a big problem for our population. For other side, we have the highest rate of mortality in doctors and nurses in all planet. The rate of mortality is 8.5. It's the double of the average in all world. And all information is not available in terms of the vaccines, programs to put in the field. And we don't understand why the government closed all information for 5 years. If you analyze the information, the official data of the Mexican government are completely lies. Example, if you analyze the death toll of the last 5 years, the forecast, the normal forecast for 2020 is exceeded in 320,000 deaths more. 320,000 deaths more in addition. This is the double of the official figures. And logically, United Nations, the Organization of Health and world level, say to Mexico that it's necessary, don't put attention the frivolity and superficial way the treatment of the coronavirus in Mexico.
Wow. Let me put in oranges and apples to the American audience, because what you say is very important. It's imperative that the American population understand the situation. Do we share, as I mentioned before, the largest border, and we share, many families have relatives in both sides of the border. This means that the rate of vaccination is very slow, and it's going to take decades to complete that all population has the first dose. Meanwhile, Chile in South America is vaccinating almost 1 million people every week. But now, Mr. Lozano, we are experiencing not only the vaccination problem, also there are power cuts of energy nationwide. Why these power cuts are happening right now in Mexico?
Okay, it's important, Frank, the whole audience understand that in the last 2 years, we have to put off electric energy in Mexico. Not only for the current situation, no. In the last 2 years, we lost the energy, electrical energy in Mexico. In the last 20 years, probably is the first time that we are living this kind of problems. It's very clear that the López Obrador agenda is exactly the agenda of Sao Paulo Forum, the new socialismo in Latin America, one way of communism. He pretends to become Mexico in a new Venezuela, following step by step the same plan that Hugo Chavez and Rafael Correa and Evo Morales made. The monopolization of the electrical companies in Mexico below to the government authorities is in order to assure, subsidize the inefficiency that we have in the company governments. For this reason, López Obrador, the current president, blocked all investments in clean and green energy. They is forbidden to invest in aeolic or solar energy or other ways of energies in order to assure the market for the products of the government in this company, Comisión Federal de Electricidad. For this reason, this blocked all investments. Also, they privilege investments in dark energies, in a carbon or fossil material, not sustainable. Many companies with investments in the last energy reform in 2012 Sorry.
It's okay. Keep going.
Okay, perfect. Many companies with investment in the new reform of energy in Mexico, 2012, they are most leaving of Mexico now. It's amazing that the treatment, NAFTA, or the trade agreement with Canada and USA, they are above of these agreements, and they are closing all investment in Mexico. They don't think in wind, they don't think in solar sources. They are putting the bet only for the carbon way of produce electrical process. It's important for the American people to understand that this agenda of Lopez, President Lopez in Mexico, is exactly the same guidelines that Hugo Chavez made in Venezuela. It's exactly the same. For AMLO, it's not important. For Lopez Obrador, the current president of Mexico, it's not important the private companies. He prefers the government companies. For these reasons, he smiled every company close. Every one company close, Lopez smiled, because grow and grow, the people subordinate to the government. This is the destiny that they are doing in Mexico now. The NAFTA agreement, in the real life, he thinks to play games only in litigations. Prepare the American enterprises to suffer this kind of situation of litigation, because Lopez running the country now with 25 constitutional controversies and many demands, legal demands. But now is cooptation all justice system, and for this reason he played the game like Hugo Chavez did.
Wow. Mr. Lozano, just for the audience information, your background is a businessman. You were the CEO, Chief Executive Officer, or President of one of the largest industries in Mexico. Have you seen, as a businessman, a president in the past that handled too many changes on the justice system, the economical system, because he's pretending to change the Federal Reserve of Mexico, the central bank? He's pretending to change the courts for elections and the federal courts for the Supreme Court on Mexico. What are you expecting, and what is your point of view about these all fast track changes are happening?
Yes, unfortunately, Frank and all audience, the Trump government played a game with Lopez for economical interest. You need to know that Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of Trump, has interest in several projects in Mexico. And for this reason, in our opinion, Trump laissez-faire Lopez to do any changes in Mexico. For us, we are expecting a lot of the American companies, and also the Joe Biden or Biden government, because for the businessmen, now we are suffering all. The raw materials are scarce. For example, now we are stopped many companies for the reason of government to avoid to pay the price of the gas. But also, you know, Frank, that the new law of the extinction of property uh, uh, for example, normally this extinction law, knowledge that Hugo Chavez law is for the organized crime, but now it's possible to apply any businessman only for one mistake in your taxes declaration. They can to expropriate, to frozen the accounts, and for this reason you can see many entrepreneurs, many chief executive officer of the companies with fear. They are fear about of the way to operate the government of Lopez. Logically, we lost 1.2 million employees the last year. 1.2. And also, it's very important, Frank, the people of USA knows that the level of poverty in Mexico grew 10 million people more only in the last year. from 50 million people to 60 million people. This is a potential problem of immigration for the American citizens, because all of these people, in order that the unemployment rate is very high, that you don't find jobs, all companies are in problems. Logically, these people, in order to survive, go into the boundaries to USA. Now, you know, in these these policies of this government, in 2019, we lost gross internal product 1% without coronavirus. 1% decline the economical movement in Mexico. And the last year, 9%. This 10% logically means many people in the streets looking to survive, and they are trying to go to USA. And also, it's amazing, for example, the case of Constellation Brands, a brewery belongs to Budweiser in USA, finish all investment in Baja California, in the north of Mexico, and they needed close for one decision of the president. And also many foreign companies that investing in Mexico now is not a good attraction for this uncertainty, legal uncertainty, the situation of the way to apply the taxation for this government. And logically, we are in the worst scenario in the last 40 years. In addition, Frank, it's important that the people knows that the way to salvation to Mexico before was the oil industry. But for example, the last year, we produce in terms of oil, the less production in the last 50 years. In the last 50 years, our production is completely out, and it's important that we lost in terms of economical and this industry that before means 30% of the income of the government now is outcome, because we lost $25 million in the last year. This situation, this is the reason that the many ways of this government is to try to put in the pockets all savings of the last 20 years. And we can talk more about the trust that this is the century theft or robbery. 102 trusts were closed, and all saving of the last 20 years are spending in the electoral platform and the pharaonic projects of Mr. Lopez. That is important to analyze this kind of projects, because we don't have more hospitals, we don't have more universities. No, the bet of Mr. Lopez is to try, for me, a Cuban style, to have autonomous production of gasoline, of a new refinery in Tabasco, and also one Mayan train, railroad, Mayan, for touristic service that really will be military, and the new inauguration of the airport, military, like Evo Morales made in Bolivia.
Wow.
This is a narco state.
Mr. Lozano, you read my mind when you start to talk about the trust, the fideicomisos. And it's very clear, according you are talking about, that the money has no trace. Right now that the fideicomisos, the trust disappear, there is no trace of the money. Nobody knows in terms of Congress, senators, governors, businessmen, where is this money expending? And you are talking about those pharaonic projects, Tren Maya, Refinería de Dos Bocas, and the airport, all of them a waste of money. But is any way Mexicans can advise USA about these problems and stop these wrongdoings that in certain ways are going to affect the American business, the American government in the near future?
Yes, yes, I agree. I believe the way, for example, is important for the banks, the bankers, international bankers. They pay attention because the debt of Mexico is growing a lot in the last 2 years. The equivalent of the one airplane, Obama plane, Obama airplane, every day.
Wow.
Is amazing because the debt of Mexico is growing to 40% against gross internal product to 55 now. It is the most highest growing of the debt. But not only this, the problem is also the use of the 96,000 million pesos of this trust of fideicomisos. They take all of this money, forget the funds for disaster, forget the funds for the potential problems with the international oil prices or for health of the people. They put all in a clientelism way to give the money people and also to put in the pocket of the Lopez family and logically all people around him. It's exactly this movie we watched this movie with Hugo Chavez family, with Fidel Castro family, with Ferdinand Marcos family. They live in like a bourgeoisie, but they talk about socialism, communism, first the poor people, but in the reality is one is that they say and other is that they are doing. In that terms, the use of the old trust, 102 trust, to take the money and use for electoral and to keep the power in the future elections is very clear for the Mexicans because we can see any new freeway, new streets, hospitals, universities, all money is now in order to buy the dignity and the future votes of the Mexican people in the segment of poverty. Really, we are living the same movie that the Venezuelan people lived with Chavez, or the Ecuadorian people with Rafael Correa, or the Bolivian people with Evo Morales. Remember, the Sao Paulo Forum is a construction of the forum from Fidel Castro, Lula da Silva, Dilma Rousseff, Rafael Correa, and Hugo Chavez. And Mexico is part of this strategy to gain the communism in all Latin America. In all Latin America. They think that the way in order to invade all America is to build a communism way of life. in the people for control of population, in order to the beneficiary of this kind of system normally is a little group, the people in the power, and in this situation, the political parties of opposition are completely out of this fight. This is the reason, Frank, that the Mexican citizens, we are needed to organize a network in order to resign of López Obrador. For any ways that we need to do, example, legal actions, social resistance actions, and for us, the Dr. Gene Sharp, the guru and ex-dean of Harvard University, he dedicated 60 years of his life in order to research and scientific way to analyze what is the best way in order to put off a dictatorship. Because it's very important the American people knows. López Obrador is a dictatorship. The justice system, the Supreme Court, is completely co-opted, is completely subordinate to the executive power. The republic spirit doesn't exist now in Mexico because the majority of the camera of congressmen are subordinates to López, and also this justice system. One example. The last week, Mr. López was prepared a show to kick off the new airport. Okay, it's old airport military in Santa Lucia, and he closed all investment about of the modern new airport in Texcoco, and he said in front of the many people that this is a phenomena of engineer, the most modern. If you watch this airport, it's amazing that the president of Supreme Court was part of the courtesans, what part of the slaves people around López. Why is the in our mind, it's very difficult to understand why the justice power is part of the circus, is part of the show. And any demand, legal demand, with the mistakes of López in constitutional or in penal law is not advancing. All are stopped. And we are thinking the possibility that to use international justice system like international court in La Haya in order to pay attention, that because, for example, in the way to facing the coronavirus is like a Lisa humanity crimes. This is the real situation. And you know, the American people, the son of the main capo, El Chapo, was liberated in the moment that we retain in Mexico, was liberated. It's free. And all capos in Mexico are completely happy because the army is completely in other activities, like to manage airports, to manage customs offices, to build banks, like a popular bank of Venezuela. In the case of Mexico, is the Bienestar Bank. Is one way in order to take control of the monetary system in Mexico. Is the potential expropriation of banks in the future, like Venezuela.
I am so glad you are. Oh,
we are facing really a big problems because the army now is completely in other activities, and for this reason we reached 60,000 murders in only 25 months. Appreciate Frank. In 25 months, 60,000 murders is 87% more than the same period of Peña Nieto, and is the triple, 287% more, and in the same period of Felipe Calderón. It's amazing. Now the capos are completely free. Nothing is following this kind of crimes. The kidnapping is growing, the feminicide is growing, the assaults is growing, and logically it's amazing because we hope that for the coronavirus problem, the criminals are in the houses. No, they are in the streets completely open. And Lopez said, best wishes, don't shoot. Best wishes, don't shoot. Is the strategy, and this strategy don't fix nothing in the history of the humanity.
I am so glad. I am so glad you are touching this part of the Mexican scenario, Mr. Lozano, because the next question is focused about how in the world all the trust, all the fideicomisses disappear except the one for the Mexican army. And the Mexican army has the privilege to deliver hugs, no bullets, is the new policy. And doing that, obviously, they free Ovidio, the son of the most wanted criminal and drug dealer, El Chapo Guzman, who is currently jailed in Colorado. But many cartels are freely killing people, as you mentioned before. But why the army has this privilege to manage many money and without trace, and many companies and congressmen and population in general has no access to medications, to vaccines, to public infrastructure? You already mentioned no freeways, no streets, no public development for the population. And why the army has all the power and they are doing jobs that in the Constitution are not described for them. They are developing construction, they are administrating security in ports and airports, and they
also
are
vaccination.
yeah,
vaccination.
And they are supervising the vaccination to soldiers.
Yes, it's amazing. Yes, your question is very sharp, Frank, very important for the Mexican people, because exactly of the government trust 102 are closed. Only one is open, the army. What is the reason? The main advices of the Sao Paulo Forum is the militarization. The militarization is the main tool in order to keep in the power to the dictator. This is the way that Hugo Chavez made. This is the way that Rafael Correa made, and also Fidel Castro or the Castro family in Cuba. For this reason, Lopez promised in his campaign, all army is to the areas for the army, not in the streets. But really, he is militarizing all Mexico. He created the National Guard with soldiers, with Marines, and also the only trust that is 10 times more at the beginning of this period of Lopez, the current president. This is the figures. In this fund for military equipment, weapons, and all accessories for war, $500 million in this trust. 500 million. Now, in only 2 years, they have $5 billion. It's amazing. 10 times the health expenses, the education expenses, all cut. They cut completely the expenditures about health, education, but not the army. What is the reason? Because Lopez knows, with the advice of the assessors of the Venezuela government, Ecuador government, remember, Evo Morales was received in Mexico, and we sent a special airplane to bring to Mexico. It's a very close alliance with the Sao Paulo Forum of the all communism countries that they are looking for to take off America. Okay, he knows in order to avoid insurgency, rebellion for the citizens, they are preparing in order to keep the power by force, by military force. The people needs to understand that the main sponsors of this government was the criminal cells, what the criminal networks. This is the reason that the current president went to the birthday of Chapito, the son of the wanted criminal El Chapo. He went to the city that they live, and also best wishes to the mother of the Chapo. 2 or 3 months after, to liberate the Chapito, Ovidio Guzman, the son of the wanted criminal Chapo that now is in USA. It's amazing because it's very clear that normally in these socialist dictators are in completely alliance with organized crime, like Venezuela, like Bolivia, like Ecuador, like Noriega. If you remember Noriega in Panama,
Of
it's
course.
the same. Yeah, are the main sponsors. And many people, we think that, for example, the Santa Lucia airport is only a bridge in order to move cocaine to USA. Joe Biden, I don't know what is the pronunciation. For me, it's Biden, but I don't know.
Both ways are okay, because you are doing right. You speak Spanish, but you speak a good English. Biden for now.
Okay. Joseph Biden needs to pay attention, and I am sure that they have all the information, because that with Lopez was reduced and limited the presence of drug enforcement agency in Mexico. The agents of DEA, de la DEA, they are now in limitations in order to stay here. What is the reason? The only happy families in Mexico is the organized crime now. They have open, they are free, and it's very important to analyze the possibility that to put the label about terrorism in the future. Because the American people, they don't pay attention to this big risk, this big threat for the national security that is growing and growing and growing more and more, these cells of crime in Mexico.
I am so glad, Mr. Lozano, sorry for interrupt you. I am so glad you are mentioning this part, and sorry for the abrupt interruption,
Oh,
but I would like to bring under your attention that few months ago, when General Salvador Cienfuegos was detained in Los Angeles airport, the largest media in the United States, and this is the reason why I am sharing this video part with the CEOs of Fox, ABC, CBS, and Washington Post, to let them know that they ignored this story. Nobody on the American media published the detention of General Cienfuegos, who was the right hand of the Mexican army on the past administration of Enrique Peña Nieto. So
yes,
why they ignore a so important character in the public life of Mexico, and President Lopez Obrador called his friend Donald Trump to ask him release and send back to Mexico under apparently a folder of charges that can be prosecuted in the Mexican court. What's happening with that?
yes. For the Mexican people, was completely surprising that Trump decided to help his friend Lopez with the repatriation of Mr. Cienfuegos that he had in USA 10 years of research, of investigations about of the criminal activities of Mr. Cienfuegos. But I understand, Frank, that the military power in Mexico put against the wall to Lopez. You need to bring Mr. Cienfuegos, and finally, is completely exonerate, like Trump in this second indictment. It's amazing. I believe the people of USA prefer to management this corruption system to try to stop. I believe in order to avoid many names, important names in USA, put on the table, that they put under the carpet all this process. I understand the military people because the current structure of the army now in Mexico really is subordinate to General Cienfuegos. The current Secretary of Defense, Luis Crescencio Sandoval, is a disciple. He's an alumni of Cienfuegos. He was part of the team of Cienfuegos. And many of these people, they have the weapons, they have the power. And the last year in Mexico, we don't have, it's not easy to have weapons in your house for your protection. It's very difficult, very bureaucratic. And they put the finger in a very dangerous situation to the current government. This is my hypothesis, but it's important to know for all people that Mexico is running, is not walking, is running to the communist narco state, socialism, narco state. For people, it's easy to understand populism, clientelism, yes, the way to control the population in Mexico, and they don't feel any if the enterprises close, if the entrepreneurs go out of Mexico. For them is perfect. And in my opinion now, is very naive, the position of the entrepreneurs in Mexico. Several of them are part of the alliance with Lopez government. Several very important for them, especially the owners of the television networks. Televisa, TV Azteca are very close to the president.
Milenio.
In order, Milenio, de Francisco González. But in general, the 85% of the entrepreneurs in Mexico are medium entrepreneurs, are medium enterprises or mini enterprises. 85% of the economic movement belongs not to the big companies. It's more medium and small companies. And now we are losing many employees, many enterprises, closed every day. And for Lopez, it's not important. He smiles. He protects only the government companies. Comisión Federal de Electricidad, like a monopoly, and Petróleos Mexicanos, like a hobby. They enjoy that the companies close. And this, for me, the main entrepreneurs, especially the structures of the organization or cameras for entrepreneurs, they are very naive. They are trying to dialogue, to negotiate, but it's like a Mr. Chamberlain when tried to dialogue with Hitler. Winston Churchill says very clear, okay, you don't reach the peace and only get the war. And Winston Churchill is the profile in order to attack this kind of person like Hitler. In our case, this is the reason that we don't find, Frank, in any institution to go face to face against Lopez, only FRENA. FRENA is a network of citizens. We don't ask about positions in the government. We don't have any dreams to work like public servants. We are the taxpayer Mexican Federation, the generators of wealth, the people that provokes new sources of employment. And we need to fight directly in order to reach the resign of Lopez. And in this position, Dr. Jean Sharp studied for 60 years what is the way in order to put off one dictator. And we are following the main streams of the guidelines of Mr. Sharp in order to put off Mr. Lopez, because he's losing Mexico now.
Yeah, I see.
In security, in employee, in economical growth, in health, in education, all indicators, key success factors of the one performance of the government are completely loose in Mexico. We are loose.
Lozano.
All.
And you are doing a great job enhancing and motivating Mexican population to find the real democratic ways. And you have a plan for next election day, and you like to success on it. And this is one of the reasons we are looking for this interview, because there are a lot of organizations that are interested in participate as observers, international observers. I speak with Ms. Lincoln, who is of the Carter Center, and she says that this is the first time the government of Mexico is not, or opposition parties are not requesting observers for the next election. And the way the Carter Center can participate is only by request of one recognized organization. Is FRENA requesting to the Carter Center participate as observers on this coming election?
Yes, we are trying to build bridges in order to have to be a good shape for this election. But remember, the intermediate election is not for the election, presidential election. It's only for congressmen. And we need to pay attention with the opposition Congress in Mexico is the same for Lopez, because Lopez enjoyed to work in litigations, in constitutional controversies, and it's very important to use this tool. But for the Mexican people, we need to understand that the election is only one of the tools, of the 2,000 tools that we need to do now and here. For example, Frank, the next March 21st, we are trying to do a citizen judgment against all crimes of Lopez. Public. The verdict will be of the population. We are convoking, we are inviting all people of Mexico in the Mexico City in order that in March 21st to put on the table every crime of Lopez. And we are waiting that the population says guilty, non-guilty. Because the best campaign for the opposition is to fight directly with the political party in the power. What is the problem that we have? Very, very deep problem. The political parties, the opposition, PRI, PAN, PRD, they don't say nothing. Nothing, Frank. They are completely sleeping. They are trying only to get more chairs in the congressmen, in the governments, and so forth. But really, every new policy from Lopez has any opposition voice. Only the Mexican citizens. They don't say nothing with the initiative of the new electric sector, the new law for change completely the electrical industry in Mexico, that is completely inconsistent, is incongruent with the NAFTA agreement, completely. But the political parties, no, they are thinking only to survive with money, salaries for the political people, and it's very difficult to have a good opposition for the future election in June 6. Okay, we will be electoral observers, but we know that in many people, poor people, they are selling their votes for this clientelism that Lopez is dedicated all day. They don't do Lopez, current president, he don't nothing about of the running the country. He only is focusing in to keep the power in June 6. Only the activities in order to gain votes, this is the only way that he is working. For him, is no problem the death toll for coronavirus, the problems in education, the problems in public infrastructure. He is only dedicated to gain votes. is a very difficult enemy. And also, we are waiting for many tricks in the moment of the election, because he's paying, for example, the case of vaccination now is conditional to vote for Morena, the party of the president. It's okay. You want vaccine? Perfect. But I need your information, your picture, your electoral card, in order to assure that you receive the second doses if you vote for Lopez, for the party of Lopez.
It's so
This
sad.
is, yes, it's amazing.
Mr. Lozano, for the English-speaking audience, we have to explain them that the places on the chambers of Congress and senators, Mexico is the only country that has plurinominal positions. That means that no people vote for them. They are Congress and senatorial positions assigned as a gift for political friends, for the chair of the party friends, and those senators and congressmen, they vote, but they don't represent a population that vote for them. How they mismanage, how they manipulate these votes on the crucial decisions of the party.
Yes, we are the product of the system, political system of the last years, that Albert Einstein said, if you do the same, you don't expect different results. And the case of the design of the Congress and also the senators, 40% of the congressmen are scholarships. I like scholarships. Only the 60% of the congressmen, they are results of the electoral election, a popular election. And the 50% of the senators' camera is scholarships, are not voted. With this proportion, it's impossible to advance because they have the control. And you need to understand that the old people of Morena party grow in the PRI, in the PAN, in the PRD. Finally, is the same circus, is the same people. If you watch the cabinet of Lopez, any new person are there as the same political actors of the PRI, of the PAN, of the PRD, and they like a transvestist, I don't know what do you say in English when only change your
word.
dress, but it's the same person. It's the same person, but with a new dress. And Morena is really a big lie.
So
for the Mexican people, because of the PRD and PRD, they are belongs to Morena. And this proportion of congressmen and senators is impossible. They work only for the president. They don't work to the population. They are not representative of the people. And with this system, it's very difficult to advance because the political parties, they prefer to negotiate under the table. They are like an opposition on the stage, but under the scenario, they are negotiating all because it's money. When a very good sentence is, it's not logical, it's metallic, it's money. If Something is not logical, it's metallic, it's economical. It's very difficult, Frank, but they are thousands. We are millions. I say it in FRENA, Front, National Front. It's more easy to understand for the English people that has access to this interview. Is we are FRENA is the Mexican Taxpayer Federation. Mexican Taxpayer Federation. And this federation fights against the public servants in order that we are the boss. We are the real chief executive officer of Mexico, but we need to exercise this power because the last years for the political, the best way to help citizens are completely close the mouth, to put the hands in the air, and to put the hands in the earth. So, nothing. It's difficult that we are millions, and we are doing all of our effort, our best, in order to get organized citizens, organized, informated, and acting organization in order to push against the wall to the public servants because they are acting like a royal family, like a feudalist family, like dictators. And we need to change this way of seeing our society.
I am so glad, and we have 5 minutes left, and you explained very well the monkey law of zip their lips, close the eyes, and cover their ears. But Mexican population, I believe, because I interviewed you for radio, and we have a wonderful feedback, and people says, I feel intimidated if I say something because I am afraid National Guard or the army go to my house and kill my mother, my father, like they already did in Chihuahua. The National Guard killed one lady who was defending the rights of one plant, water distribution plant. So what do you recommend to the people to participate and then don't jeopardize the safety of their family?
Very, very difficult question, Frank. Very difficult question. We say that in a popular declaration of the people, in order to have a big mouth, you need a little tile. Because this is the reason that the many entrepreneurs participate in the corruption system, and logically they are managed by the neck, because if you put your voice, I need to check in the closet what skeletons you have. It's very difficult. But what is the way that we are using now, Frank, with the Mexican people? You need to be more afraid of the Mexico become Venezuela del Norte, that the risk that you have of the National Guard, Lopez, and all mafia in the power now. This is the moment of risk. What is the what is the higher risk? To our families belongs to the Venezuela del Norte, Mexico become in Venezuela del Norte, or right now to fight directly, because the risk is less now, but the risk for our future generation, for our sons, for our families, for our grandchildren. This is the to put in the balance in all eternal fight between oppressors and people, slaves, is necessary. Okay, a very important statement of the one revolutionary person, hero in Mexico, Emiliano Zapata. He says, I prefer to die, stand up, that to live in my knees. I don't know if it's clear for the American people, but I prefer to die, stand up, and to live for many years in my knees.
Exactly.
This is the point, the key issue in order to persuade people that we need to fight now. Because every year, every hour, every minute, Lopez is pushing a lot this agenda of the socialism of the 21st century, or communism, or to put like Venezuela, our country.
Thank you. And before we close, as I mentioned to you, sorry for take too long of your time, but this interview in English is being requested by somebody very prominent who told me, Francisco, Mexico is the patio, is the front patio of United States. Mexico has the largest population.
Bueno, for many people, is the back patio.
Well,
the back,
okay,
the
back or
backyard.
front is very
Mexico
influential.
is the backyard because many toxic. We put the deaths, and you put the weapons, for example.
But there are concerns. Sorry for the interruption. There are concerns about that Mexico is the rear patio of the United States, country that has a large population of Mexican Americans, almost 40 million between documented and undocumented. I hear you. Try to speak if you don't hear me. Yeah.
Sorry, Frank. I lost the comment. The commentary.
Let me explain it again.
Yeah, thank you.
Many, one of the persons who request this interview in English have said that Mexico has these problems with the new socialist era. And there are concerns on the American government because Mexico is the patio of the United States. Besides, right now, the Mexican influence in the United States is so strong. It's very important to pay attention on what is happening. And one of the concern is if López Obrador is trying to do with this San Pablo agreement and that association with other governments is a possibility that Mexican and Latin America try to affect United States, taking that organization as a socialist state, Latin America, to close deals and stop deals like NAFTA or TEMEC to make companies quit. As you mentioned, the investors are leaving Mexico, and there are many problems derivated of it. Is any way this situation can be worse for the United States than for Mexico and Latin America?
It's very, very complicated question because we have two versions, two hypotheses about of this relationship USA-Mexico. One of them, and smart people, think that, come on, you need to think that for USA, it's interesting to have a patio, to have a low cost manpower, to have more servants, slaves, territory, and probably if we negotiate with one socialist leader, a lot of corruption, is easy to do a business with this kind of countries. Because remember, Hugo Chavez has a big agreements with the Venezuela petroleum oil with the American companies, and no problem, perfect. We have a Cuba. Oh, it's interesting because it's only for to spend money, touristic services, manpower, low cost manpower. Yeah, it's good for us to have a slave in the neighborhood. This is one expression. The other, this is uh, apparently short-term good. In a short-term period is good. But what is the future? In geopolitics, what is the influence of Russia, China, Middle East in the moment that Mexico are a socialist? And in the long term, I believe it's a big threat for the national security of USA, for the business and the economy of USA. In my opinion, is one balance about short-term profit and losses statement now or profit and losses statement in the future, because it's possible. Probably for Trump was interesting. Oh, I pay $4 per journey for the all day work for the maquiladoras. Oh, use the slave manpower in Mexico is very cheap. It's a good way in order to have slaves. This is one way of thinking. But the other way of thinking is in the long range, the American people need to understand what is the potential threat for his family. Because Germany, in the moment that opened all boundaries, France, England, are really a big threat for the native people in Germany, England, and France. Also Spain. Europe are completely, for me, taken for the Muslims people, for the Middle East people, for the African people, and probably when you are walking in the streets of Germany, you can see more people from outside Germany than people born in Germany. And
Right.
this is a big threat for USA.
You're right. My wife was in a gas station in France, and my wife don't accept people around smoking due her health conditions. And she was complaining because people from Middle East was smoking and they don't care. And one of the gas station people come and say, "How may I help you?" And my wife complains, "Oh, that person is smoking. I can breathe the smoke." And she says, "There is nothing what I can do. These people take over France and they domain everything." And is
Yes.
the new world, Gilberto, the globalization is moving on. I appreciate your time and thank you for this deep information you are sharing with other people. Anything to close? Anything that is pending to say in your script?
Yeah. No, Frank, thank you very much for all audience. Thank you for your passions. I had a many time without practice my English. I need to use more. But for me, were very interesting interview, and I believe probably is a kickoff in order to build bridges with stakeholders of the American people,
Let me tell
because
you,
they need, yes, they need to know more what is happening in Mexico. I know that the federal offices, they have a lot of information, but probably they don't pay attention the big threat that they have. And also is for us, and I appreciate a lot the American country. I studied two specialties in Stanford University. I have joint ventures with the American companies when I worked in FEMSA Group, in other groups. And I appreciate a lot the pragmatic of the American people. But in the pragmatic focus way, it's important to pay attention that what is happening and what is doing current President Lopez with our country. Because finally, we are neighbors, we are friends, we have a commercial interest, and for the future of the North America, is necessary to pay more attention because Trump, in my opinion, was superficial about of this relationship.
Exactly.
Thank
And
you,
you know
Frank.
what, Gilberto? Something that people mention is sometimes people on the government, there are bureaucrats. They see the information pass over and they don't care. But when they listen from a leader with your prestige, they are going to care. Thank you very much. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate this, and I see you soon. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you, Gilberto.